motorsport, really changed my perception of driving, was unfortunately when Ayrton Senna died. I saw the impact that he had on the Brazilian people. It really changed my view of what a racing driver could become, and that was my dream after that. So I put a lot of my personal time and effort, and I helped to build Formula E from scratch, and now I see Formula E as one of the main series of the world. It's such a privilege to be racing in Formula E.
I saw my first Formula 1 race when I was more or less 6-year-old. From that day, it was clear to me one day I would work in motorsport. So I'm still looking forward to an exciting future with Formula E and in motorsport.
So going into Season 7, talk about powertrains is absolutely rife, and the team's decisions whether to use a new powertrain, bringing that into Season 7, or stick with an existing model. Now, if you don't know what's going on, what's new, what hasn't changed, let me bring you up to speed. Earlier in the year, new championship cost-saving regulations were voted in as a result of the global health crisis. The teams were given 3 options. They could continue with their 2019-20 powertrain, that's the components that convert the energy from the battery to motion and make the car move, bring in an all-new setup to be retained for 2 years, or carry over their existing powertrain for the
Hello and welcome to Formula E Accelerate. It's round 5 and the penultimate week of racing.
6 seasons of Formula E as a sport has evolved into this incredible game on rFactor 2.
Attracting 24 of the world's best sim racers, competing for a prize pool of €100,000, driving a real Formula E car, and these trophies.
Yeah, one for the driver and one for the team. And remember, that's the real-life Formula E teams.
This is our studio. We've taken over Formula E headquarters in London while everyone is working remotely, and our little gang here are in a COVID-secure bubble.
Yes, and we're live, so we want to hear from you, our friends. Get in touch using the hashtag FEAccelerate and tag us at FIA Formula E. Plus, keep your eye on here as there are co-streamers on Twitch in Spanish and Portuguese, so if you fancy that, permission to switch.
Coming up, Jake Dennis, Katie Munnings, Théa Musant, and the big reveal of our circuit for the grand final. All I can tell you right now is it's a brand new release on rFactor 2. Any guesses? Let us know in the comments.
Qualifying for round 5 will be starting shortly. The track this week is Electric Dogs.
But before we get underway with today's action, let's bring you up to speed. Last week, we were taking on the virtual Arabian street circuit.
Round 4 of Formula E Accelerate took us to Diriyah for a dust-up in the desert that left the championship race on a knife edge. Frederick Rasmussen started on pole after qualifying 0.3 of a second ahead of Kevin Siggy, with championship leader Erhan Yayovski third on the grid.
The race gets underway. Immediately, Yayovski swings to the inside in the white and black Venturi. Rasmussen covers the inside in the Dragon car, and Bono Glees tries to go around the outside at turn 1, but I think Carroll gave Yayovski a little bit of a nudge.
In just his second race for Audi at Sport Schaeffler, Michi Hoyer's baptism of fire intensified as he was spun around on the opening lap. After falling foul of energy strategy in Berlin, Gray and Carroll bounced back, using attack mode to retake 5th place from Marius Gollenbeck and boost his campaign. And after 2 attempts, F1 esports champion Jarno Opmeer made one of the moves of the race to get back past Martin Stefanko round the outside at turn 1.
Opmeer fancies all the way around the outside, might get fed into the wall, no! And a brilliant pass from Jarno Opmeer.
But ultimately, it counted for nothing as the Mercedes EQ driver faded away towards the end of the race. Out front, the 3 championship rivals Rasmussen, Siggy and Jujovski held position with no mistakes from the trio in the first half of the race until Siggy closed in on Rasmussen, making his move at turn 18.
He's going for it, sends it coming into the chicane, Siggy on full attack and they bang wheels and Siggy slides around. Jujovski takes evasive action and Siggy drops down to 3rd position.
The BMW I Andretti driver escaped a penalty because the incident itself lost him a position. Either way, any hope of back-to-back wins was gone.
I think I was just overcooking it on the braking zone because I was just a bit too impatient sitting behind him. Obviously it was my fault. I did also press 2 buttons, which are the downshift and the pit limiter button, so that's why I was literally stopped on the track for like 3-4 seconds.
I think Kevin just went for a move that's never going to work, and it didn't work here, so I'm just glad to not have had too much damage from it, and I was able to win anyway.
I knew that Kevin would try a move on Rasmussen, and I was just waiting for it to happen, sitting behind him. The move was a bit too aggressive from Kevin, but he had to try it. Luckily I managed to get around him without any contact and gain a position.
Jujovski briefly conceded 2nd position to Siggy, leaving the racing line to take attack mode. The extra power boost then allowing the points leader to retake the position on the same lap.
Jujovski to the outside coming into the chicane and the move is made then.
Bono Huis's 4th place finish saw him climb to 4th in the Drivers' Championship, but the title fight looks to be a 3-horse race now, and one that's impossible to call.
The 20-year-old Dane comes through the final corner and takes his first win in Formula E Accelerate.
Rasmussen's first win of the season sees the top 3 now separated by only 19 points with 2 rounds to go, with Jujovski's 2nd place in Diriyah good enough to retain his lead over Siggy.
It feels nice to finally win a race. Kevin and Erhan, I think they're the best rFactor 2 players in the world. I really need to push hard to try to beat them. I need to be fully focused on trying to do that. Just do my best, that's what I try to do every time, then I'll be pretty happy if I can do that.
Well, let's take a look at how it affects the standings then. As Freddie Rasmussen just then said, the Red Bull esports driver, he is up against some of the best in the world. Jujovski is leading the championship at the moment, 19 points clear of Freddie Rasmussen. Kevin Siggy's in the middle and just 2 races to go.
Yes, and with 87 points still available over the next 2 races, there's still quite a lot to fight for.
Yeah, and as far as the team's championship is concerned, it's BMW I Andretti who are on top there.
Yeah, not surprising, as Kevin Siggy has been scoring points along with his teammate, and with Jake Dennis in the drivers' race, that's doing well as well.
Yeah, absolutely. On the other hand, Rocket Venturi Racing are 2nd in the standings, but most of their points have come from Jujovski, as Lawrence Herzing has only had 1 points finish, which was last time out with an 8th place in Diriyah.
Yeah, maybe he should get Daniel Abt to drive for him. And on to Mercedes-Benz EQ. They are 4th, and they were back on form after Diriyah, weren't they, Jack?
Yeah, both of them scoring points in Diriyah, and that was the first time that had happened since the first race in New York City. We know Bono Huis is good. He ran out of energy, if you remember, in Berlin a few weeks ago. So fascinating to see whether they can find that consistency again.
Yes, and on to Envision Virgin Racing. Graham Carroll's had some strong finishing, so I can imagine that he wants to get a win soon.
Yeah, and he's going to be in the mix, I think. And Timea Benchik actually has really impressed me. 19 years of age, she's racing on a Logitech G27, which is quite an antiquated piece of machinery, at least 5 or 6 years old, but she's steadily progressing in what is her first big major sim racing tournament. Here are all our drivers getting ready. Kelvin van der Linde is back there in the middle, so excited to see what he can do for the Audi. They're another team where only one of their drivers, Manuel Biancalila, has scored any points for them this year.
I like that pronunciation.
That's how you say it.
Well, in just a few minutes' time, qualifying will get underway. But first, let's take a look at our guests. First up, Katie Munnings is one of the big names in the lineup competing for the brand new Extreme E Racing Series. So, if you don't know much about that, here's a taste.
It's 50-50 split, male and female. It's never been done before, and I think it's going to be absolutely iconic. It's some of the biggest names in motorsport, so the level of competition is going to be insane.
Extreme E combines real racing action and zero-emission mobility to help preserve our environment.
So heading to Saudi Arabia.
First race ever to start Extreme E. We're ready.
So, it's a brand new off-road electric race series and it starts in 2 weeks in the middle of the Arabian desert. Katie, thank you for joining us. 2 weeks to go. I can imagine you're very excited.
Yeah, I can't believe it. It feels like something we've talked about for a while. There's been such a build-up to the first race and now it's finally happening. Flights are being booked, so I really can't wait to start racing.
Yeah, and there are some really big names in Extreme E, both drivers and teams. I mean, Lewis Hamilton has a team. So what is it like competing with those people? I mean, bit of pressure?
Absolutely. I mean, I first signed up before, I was kind of at the very beginning, before Lewis had a team, before Nico Rosberg, before Carlos Sainz and Sebastian Loeb were signed up as drivers, and of course Jenson Button recently. So yeah, it's going to be an exciting lineup. It's some of my heroes when I was growing up, and you know, I'd watch them at the side of the road, and I'd think, you know, I wish I could drive like them one day. So to be sharing a track with them and nudging shoulders into the first turn is pretty surreal. But I think it just says something about how important this championship will be and how much people believe in it, to have people that are retired F1 drivers coming back and getting involved again with the sport.
Yeah. And could you explain a bit more about the format of it? It's kind of rallying, it's kind of racing, like what is it all together?
Yeah, so it's like an off-road rallycross. The lap will be about 8 kilometres long, and the male will do a lap and the female will do a lap, and each team has to have a male and a female driver. And then it's the overall result, the first team to cross the finish line. So there's no individual result for the male and the female, which is really cool. It gives females a new credibility in motorsport. We're being chosen on merit and because, you know, we need to be as fast as the guys if we want to win. And then you have the environmental aspect, which is awesome. In the first race, we're going to do some work on the beach where the turtles hatch. And it's all about raising awareness for climate change, using sport as that voice, and yeah, just spreading the message that you know, we all need to kind of take responsibility and do our bit to save the planet.
Amazing. And I can see that you brought your helmet. Yeah. Do you want to talk us through the inspiration behind? I can see that there are some star constellations at the top.
There are. Actually, this is the first time anyone's ever seen this. So I've literally... Yeah, exclusive. I literally just got this. And so it was kind of inspired by the universe. Obviously, there's a bigger kind of picture and bigger message with Extreme E Championship. So these are actually the stars the night I was born. That was their formation.
Wow.
And then a bit of glitter, because why not? You've got to have a bit of glitter.
Yeah.
There's also another theme. It kind of matches my teammate Timmy's, but I don't think he's shared his helmet design yet, so I can't say too much. But yeah, lots of bright colour, a bit of a star explosion going on.
Yes, you and Timmy are both with Andretti. What is it like working with him? What's it like working with such a legendary name in motorsport like Andretti?
It's pretty special. I think I signed up for the drivers programme, and then literally 2 weeks later, Roger, the Formula E team principal for Andretti, phoned me on a Friday night. He was in LA. I think I was having a lockdown barbecue at the time, and I was surprised to hear that early from a team. And I didn't know my teammate would be Timmy until we'd both signed up. So there was quite a lot of anticipation, and I was so happy when I found out it was him. But yeah, as you say, Andretti, absolute icons of motorsport, and also with United Autosport and Zach Brown and all of their experience as well, coming from the Le Mans series. It's quite a formidable partnership, and I'm really excited to be involved with such icons.
Yeah, no, it's so exciting. And for the people at home, it's not just rally driving that Katie does. Some of you may know her from Katie's Amazing Machines on CBeebies, but also you have a new show coming up on the UK TV channel Dave, all about supercars. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so it's called The Secrets of the Supercars, and it's basically we'll go into the factory, the headquarters of each of the manufacturers. We'll find out what makes them special, what the engineering is, what makes them different, and then I'll test it. So I've driven some cool machines. I drove the Koenigsegg, which was insane.
Wow.
Yeah, it makes every car I feel drive so slow now. So yeah, I mean, it was a really fun series, and it will be coming out in a couple of weeks' time. So yeah, it'll be a good one.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Katie. Now you're going to be joining Jack in commentary for the race in about half an hour. And if you have any questions for Katie, then you can get them in for the Allianz Ask Me Anything using the hashtag #FEAccelerate. Now, qualifying is just a couple of minutes away, so why don't we take a look at this week's circuit? Tell us about electric docks, Jack and Tia.
What a good idea, Darren. Yes, we have got Taya with us to show us around the electric dock circuit if you want to head out onto the track. Now, this is a fictional circuit. It's a very tight exit of the pit lane, but it's a fictional track that we saw in the Race at Home Challenge, but it's going to be a real challenge, I think, for these drivers, isn't it? So talk us around it, Taya.
Yeah, so the first challenge that they will get is that chicane, which is just, pit stop. Pit limiter. So I brake between the 100-meter board and the 50-meter board. I'm guessing they might brake closer to the 50-meter board. Here it's really key not to touch the curb too much, because if you bounce on them, then you lose a lot of speed out when you're on the exit of the turn. And then you're going onto this left-hander, which is kind of long. You have to do a bit of coasting here, otherwise you will drift onto the side, on the right-hand side, and into the wall, as I've done previously. Here, it's all full speed, so you have to be quite brave. You have to do a play with the throttle, really, and you have to be really, really careful on the next left-hander, because they catch you after this few fast turns. You have to do a bit of braking and turn, and then again the same type of turn where you have to brake and again go for the apex, and as soon as you see the exit, just full power. And here again, brake between the 150-meter boards. You've got this chicane. It's a little bit easier to take than the first chicane. You're going another left-hander fairly long. And the next turn is actually the one I call the brave turn, because it kind of comes onto you without really you noticing it. Brake a little bit here, not to drift too much to the left, and as soon as you start seeing the exit here of the next turn, you have to let yourself drift to the side, and you get a nice straight line onto the next couple of turns. So again, you have to play with the throttle, otherwise you end up in the wall. So yeah, it's quite a fast track. It's really fun to go around. You've got the attack mode here, which right over here, which they'll have to drive through. So on that little area, so you have to come instead of going for the apex, you have to go really wide. And that's it. That's a lap of electric docks.
Okay, amazing. Thank you very much, Taya. We'll be speaking to Taya a little bit later on. Stay tuned for the big reveal of a brand new track coming for rFactor on next week's Grand Final. But as I say, we'll speak to Taya in a moment. Now it's time to look at our top sim racers taking on electric docks. Qualifying coming up now, and there's 3 points available for qualifying. So as far as the championship is concerned, it's pretty important. And the top 6 in the standings will be the first group going out into the qualifying format. So we'll see Erhan Yayovski, Kevin Siggy, and the like, Freddie Rasmussen, Bono Kuijs, Marius Gollenbeck, all going out onto the track first of all. Then we will be into qualifying Group 2. Peter Berliak in the BMW I Andretti Motorsport entry. Graham Carroll as well in the Envision Virgin racing car. Martin Stefanko is going to be out in the Jaguar with Risto Capet, Jarno Opmeer and Mark Gassner. And then in qualifying Group 3, we will see those that are a little further down in the championship standings. Nikodem Wisniewski, Lawrence Herzing, who got his first points last time out in Diriyah, Olli Pakala for the Mahindra team, Kuba Brzezinski, Jan van der Heide, who still only has that 1 point from the very first race in New York City, and Lucas Muller. And then qualifying Group 4, none of these drivers have picked up points yet. Leuk, Benchik, Pev, and we will also see Kelvin van der Linde making his return after he's missed the last couple of weeks due to other commitments and real-world racing commitments, which has been pretty cool for him. But here comes Kevin Siggy then, the man who took pole position in Berlin. He was second on the grid in Diriyah, and he's looking chirpy, isn't he? Down in the bottom right, he's in Tilburg in the Netherlands, is the Slovenian, after moving there from Groningen a little bit earlier in the year. And they're on their outlaps now, trying to get as much temperature into the tyres and the brakes as possible, as Siggy comes sweeping through the right and the left. Pole in the last race went the way of Freddie Rasmussen. It was his first pole position of the season, and Erhan Yayovski hasn't been on the front row since the first 2 races in New York City and Hong Kong. So Plenty of intrigue here as through the final corner comes Freddie Rasmussen. You see him there in the bottom left. Jojowski is already starting his lap, coming down through the chicane. Track limits at this chicane, as Taya mentioned a couple of moments ago, are really, really tricky, and you may well get penalised if you go and take those curbs too strongly. So that's something to keep an eye out on. You'd think the front runners will be able to work their way around that and have enough experience and ability to avoid any issues. It's Erhan Jojowski who we're waiting for to come through the first sector. Here now is Freddie Rasmussen, and he does a 29.2 in the first sector. Oh, that's a look at him at the first chicane, really committed onto the curbs, getting up in the air, and that was bold, bold stuff. Here's Jojowski in the Rocket Venturi racing car, the driver who leads the championship. How an extra 3 points would be very satisfactory for him. But it's Marius Golombek in the Porsche who's done the quickest first sector of these 6 drivers. Freddie Rasmussen is quicker than Jojowski and Biancalila in the middle sector, but that's a very impressive run from Golombek. He's quick in the middle sector too, so the Porsche driver who's 4th in the standings could be on for a good one. Here comes Erhan Jojowski out across the line, and Jojowski's benchmark time is a 1 minute 21.279. Now here's Freddie Rasmussen, the Red Bull esports driver, driving in this for Dragon Penske, and he goes ahead of Jojowski. They're both half second clear of Biancalila. What can Kevin Siggy do? The second place man in the championship, sliding towards the wall on the exit, cuts the timing beam now, and Siggy goes 4th, and he's furious with that. He's been beaten by Marius Golombek, who slots into 3rd place. Bono Huis is last across the line, and he remains in 6th position, 0.6 of a second away. But it's Freddie Rasmussen who is on provisional pole after the first 6 drivers. Still 18 to come, but there are big gaps in there. It's 2.5 tenths back to Kevin Siggy in 4th place from Rasmussen and Jojowski, whereas usually we see them much, much closer together than that. We saw Kevin Siggy's fury as he came across the line. But here are the lap times after the first 6 cars. Freddie Rasmussen on provisional pole. He's looking to take his 2nd pole position in a row. The North Macedonian Jojowski is 2nd, and I think he's pretty frustrated with his lap too. Marius Golombek 3rd. Siggy, Biancalila and Bono Huis are completing the first 6 runners. So, Freddie Rasmussen on provisional pole position. Jojowski 2nd, but how far down the order will Kevin Siggy slide? That's going to be the big question as we get ready for the 2nd group of drivers to make their way onto the circuit. Will we see a surprise in there? We'll have to wait and see. But Darren, Freddie Rasmussen's done it again.
He has, but let's take a look at Kevin Siggy. Katie, he was a bit sideways, which I think is good for rally driving, but not for this.
I looked at that and thought it was textbook. I would have done that. Yeah, he was finding the grip limit. Not that I'm biased with him being an Andretti driver. Come on, Kevin.
And Taya, were you surprised by that?
I was surprised by how fast he was going onto that curb. I said you should avoid it, but clearly they're not following my advice.
And what about Freddie Rasmussen? Did you think that he would do that?
Yeah, I think he's done an amazing job, to be honest, yeah.
Amazing. Well, let's see how Group 2 get along.
They're about to head out onto the circuit now then, and we will be having Petter Berliak, Graham Carroll, Martin Stefanko, Risto Capit, Jarno Opmeer and Mark Gassner take to the circuit. And again, we'll see whether any of them can get up involved in the fight at the front. Graham Carroll is one who may well be able to do that. He was 3rd on the grid in New York City. He was 5th on the grid last time out on in Diriyah, and we'll see whether he can improve on that here. There he is down in the bottom left, the Scotsman from Edinburgh on his outlap now, and Rasmussen has the time to beat, a 1 minute 21.185. And as I say, Carroll out there. Jarno Opmeer will be hoping to outqualify his teammate Bono Huis. Bono Huis has outqualified him 3-1 so far this year, but it wasn't a good lap from the Dutchman, so the other Dutchman, Opmeer, has a chance to beat him. Here comes Petter Berliak. Now, Berliak thought that he'd broken his wheel in practice for this, but it looks as though he's managed to get it fixed and sorted. He's also got a very nice shelving setup there behind him, hasn't he? What has he got up on? I can't quite make out what's up on his shelves, but anyway, he's got more important things to focus on, and So have I, probably, as Martin Stefanko, another strong qualifier in recent races. Stefanko, 5th in both Hong Kong and Berlin, 8th in Diriyah, so he's been inside the top 10 for the last 3 races. And we're on board with Stefanko here now as he comes into the first chicane, really attacking those curbs. And it's worth noting that you can attack the curbs, but if you go and hit the wall on the exit as well, that can be penalised. If you basically use the wall to slow you down, that's called wall riding, and there are stewards looking at that too. So Stefanko coming through the long left-hander, and he, as we look with Graham Carroll now, as he'll come through the first sector in a couple of moments. The quickest first sector we've had was from Marius Golombek. It was actually Golombek's third sector that slowed him down the most. But we'll see what Stefanko has got in sector 1. He's a couple of tenths away in the Jaguar. Through the long right-hander now. Underneath the aforementioned docks. And up towards the final couple of corners. Stefanko, you can see there in the bottom left. And the 22-year-old Czech racer has a best qualifying and best race finish of 5th position. Comes across the line and does the fastest final sector of anyone, actually, Stefanko, and goes up into 3rd place. That's a really big lap from Martin Stefanko. Here comes Graham Carroll. He's lost some time in the middle sector now. The Envision Virgin racing car across the line still goes 4th. And look at Kevin Siggy. Kevin Siggy, 2nd in the championship, is sliding further and further down. His teammate Petter Berliak adds to the misery. Berliak goes up into 3rd place. Jarno Opmeer's done a good middle sector, and Opmeer goes up into 4th position. Siggy's going to be lucky here if he starts inside the top 10. It's all slipping away from him. We've still got the double points finale to come, but what a lap from Petter Berliak. That puts him quickest in Group 2. It puts him at the moment 3rd on the grid. Will he be playing the team game with Rasmussen and Jojovski for his teammate Kevin Siggy, who's down in 8th? There you can see him down in the bottom left, Petter Berliak. Whatever is on those shelves is making him drive very quickly indeed. So 6 drivers down and 6 to go. Sorry, 12 drivers down, 12 to go. And these are the lap times at the moment. Freddie Rasmussen at the top at 1 minute 21.185. Jojovski 2nd, less than a tenth of a second away. And look at that, Berliak is just 0.12 of a second behind Jojovski in that fight for the front row. Jarno Opmeer 4th, Stefanko 5th, Carroll 6th, Siggy down in 8th position, Bono Huis 10th, Capit and Gassner completing the top 12. But, well, we spoke about Siggy quite a lot, and as soon as that lap time came in where he was 0.4 of a second adrift, it was concerning that that he was going to be a little too far away. But it is Freddie Rasmussen who still holds on to pole at the moment.
A really interesting qualifying session. It's great to see where in the world you're tuning on from. I can see Canada, Turkey, Jamaica, France, Hong Kong. So that's great. Keep letting us know where in the world you're coming from. Taya, lots of people are loving the socks. I'm loving the socks. But what did you make of that qualifying session?
I was really impressed by Berliak. I thought, looking at the outlap and how Carroll was warming up his tyres, that he was going to be the one that was going to be on the front line. I'm a bit surprised by the result, but yeah, I enjoyed that.
Yeah, and it's funny how Berliak seemed to swap places with Siggy. What did you make of it?
Yeah, exactly. It's nice to see them mixing it as well, because, you know, Group 2, we were thinking, are they just going to slot in behind Group 1? But actually, it's not the case at all. So it's cool. Hopefully, Kevin can keep a hold of a top 10 start. But yeah, awesome lap from Berliak.
Yeah, and there's the different qualifying format in Extreme E as well, isn't there?
Yes, exactly. And there's the fan vote as well, so people can get involved with that. So that's quite new for me as a driver. I don't like handing that control over, but it's really cool to get the fans engaged in that way.
Amazing. Well, make sure to get some more socials in. We're really enjoying it. And Taya will be setting her lap time later. Some more questions about that. I will also be setting my lap time in next episode, so stay tuned for that.
Oh, is that official?
That is official. That is another world exclusive. You've seen the helmet, now you've got this. But now let's actually take a look at the next group of qualifying.
Yes, let's indeed. So we're going to see who is going to be out in this group, and I'm excited see what Jan van der Heijden can do. He's only got 1 points finish so far in his Formula E Accelerate campaign, and he's in the Nissan Edams car, and that was in the first race with a 10th place finish. His qualifying has been quite good. There is Jan down in the bottom left, the 24-year-old who lives in Henstedt in Germany, was 6th in the race at home challenge. As we look at now, Nikodem Wisniewski, very quick racer for the DS Techeetah team, but here comes van der Heijden, second in. Oh, really slides it in, doesn't he? Second in the third year of the race's All-Star Challenge. Did the 24 Hours of Le Mans with Jenson Button earlier last year. And there they come flying through this first corner. And here now is Nikodem Wisniewski in the DS Techeetah. Wisniewski now coming into the long left-hander. His best qualifying performance of the season was a 6th place in Berlin for Nikodem. Van der Heijden, meanwhile, had a 8th place in round 2 in Hong Kong. That was his best qualifying position. Slid backwards a little bit. His first sector is decent enough as he comes over the tram tracks almost. There is Wisniewski, a Williams esports driver as well, and he's done a very good middle sector. Can anyone stop Freddie Rasmussen from taking another provisional pole position and the 3 points that would close in the gap a little more? His advantage, or disadvantage I should say, to Jojowski at the top of the championship would come down to 16 points. Jan van der Heijden just snatching the front left as he locks up, coming down into the final corner, out across the line, and van der Heijden slots into 8th place. Another driver that gets ahead of Kevin Siggy. Wisniewski goes 4th. Here's Lucas Muller in the Mahindra. He finished 2nd in the race at home challenge, goes into 13th place here. Lawrence Herzing goes into 9th place, so Siggy is now outside of the top 10. We've got the other Mahindra across the line of Olli Pakala. The Finn only goes up into 17th place, and Kuba Brzezinski slots into 13th position. But Kevin Siggy now down to being outside of the top 10, with the other title protagonists on the front row as it stands, with just 6 more drivers to run. Good performance though from Nikodem Wisniewski. I think he's going to be pretty satisfied with that in the DS Techeetah car. But let's have a look at the results with just 6 drivers to go. It's Freddie Rasmussen on provisional pole, a 1 minute 21.185 still. Petter Berliak's in there in 3rd. Nikodem Wisniewski's in there in 4th. Some sort of unusual drivers getting up towards the front of the order. Olli Pakala's going to be disappointed in that. He may be living in Lapland, but that was a bad Lapland for Olli Pakala. Not as bad as the joke, though. Kuba Brzezinski finishing in 13th position, but Rasmussen and Jojowski still holding on, and Siggy dropping further and further down the order, Darren.
Well, Katie, you're actually going to be racing near Lapland soon, aren't you?
Oh, well, yeah, one of our races in Greenland this year. I've just literally got back from Lapland, though, funnily enough. I've been doing some ice driving up there at the weekend. So, yeah, amazing place in the world. Love it up there.
Amazing. And, Taya, with the qualifying, we're seeing a real mix-up going on with the grid right now. In your streams, you're very open about all of the emotions and the adrenaline that rushes through. So could you please give us some insight into what's going through someone like Siggy's mind right now?
Yeah, sure. I've actually been participating to some championship as well, so it's quite a lot of pressure because you've got a camera on you, and it's like you've only got a couple of laps to make it count. So you've got all these feelings that come forward, and yeah, it's just a lot of pressure. I've seen someone going up in the air. You must think, oh my God, that's it, I've messed it up. Get all sweaty. That's something that you forget when you're alone at home. It gets quite warm. So yeah, emotion, physical reaction. It's all getting quite intense.
Yeah, and in real-life racing as well, how do you manage your emotions?
It's a tough one. A lot of people work with sports psychologists to try and keep a lid on it. Every driver's different, though. Some like getting really aggressive before they start. Some prefer to be really calm and quite chilled. So everyone's different. But, yeah, trying to keep objective. And if something goes wrong, I was taught to have a goldfish memory. So forget it and move on.
Amazing. Well, over back to Jack now with some more dead jokes.
Thank you very much, Darren. The YouTube chat is having a go at my posture. I didn't realise you could even see me while I'm doing this. So yeah, sorry about my posture, everybody. We're about to get going then for the final 6 drivers. There's Peo Pev, the Bulgarian, down in the bottom left, and
he was a driver who was very, very strong actually in the Race at Home Challenge, took a win. There's Tamer Benchik, who is driving for the Envision Virgin Racing team. There you can see on the left her G27, which, as I say, is fairly retro. Was discontinued about 5 years ago. Very much a sort of entry model of steering wheel, whereas some of these guys are going to be on. Arthur Leuk absolutely flying through the first chicane. Literally, whether he will be with the timings, we'll have to wait and see. But certainly aggressive into the first chicane for Arthur Leuk. Then we see the Porsche going through. Then the second Dragon Penske car of Jaroslav Honzik, as Leuk now comes through the first sector, a quarter of a second down, but there's a 7/10 of a second spread. Well, 1.1 if you include Olli Pakala, from first down to 18th, so there's plenty of places for these drivers to slot into. And Kelvin van der Linde's in trouble. Kelvin van der Linde, I think, might have been upside down in the Audi Sport App Schaeffler car. His return to virtual racing, and I think the car might not be in the best of shape, so might be the back of the grid for Kelvin van der Linde. Meanwhile, here comes Arthur Leuk down towards the final couple of corners. Best qualifying so far this season for Leuk was 19th in Berlin a couple of races ago. Jaroslav Honzik's had a poor first sector, actually a second away from Freddie Rasmussen. Up towards the final corner now, the long sweeping left-hander. Leuk cuts the timing beam and he goes into 18th position. Now here comes Jaroslav Honzik. Through the final corner comes Honzik. The Porsche is going to be followed across the line by the Dragon car, and Honzik dissatisfied with that. Pev goes into 19th place. Here's Chayu Zhang for the Neo 333 Formula E team. Benchik slots into 21st place, and Zhang goes into 22nd position then. So van der Linde will start at the back, lost 16 seconds during that lap. Pev down in 19th position. This is what happened to Kelvin van der Linde then. Goes a little wide, hits the rear of the wall, and then has a big old, and then he's gone over. Wow. It's a good effort from Kelvin van der Linde there, having that accident. But that means that this is the confirmed results of qualifying. Freddie Rasmussen will be starting on pole position for the second race in a row. He converted pole to win last time. Will he do the same today and continue to eat away at Erhan Yayovski's lead? The North Macedonian will be alongside him on the front row. That's going to be quite the race down into the first chicane. Petr Berliak will be in third position. All the way down the order will be Kevin Siggy. And then we've got Risto Capit down in 16th position. The R8G motorsport esports racer, usually a bit quicker than that. Leuk in 18th position, Pev 19th, and Kelvin van der Linde's flip puts him at the back of the order down in 24th spot. So, absolutely fascinating session, but for the second week in a row, Darren, it's Freddie Rasmussen on pole.
Yes, it is. Freddie Rasmussen, congratulations. Fastest qualifier. I mean, talk us through that lap.
It wasn't a great lap. It's really hard to even just do a normal lap on this track because of the first chicane. I just took it really easy and just tried to do a lap, and it was enough.
Yeah, well, even though you join us from the dark, you light up the timing screens and you did a really amazing lap. Are you feeling excited about the race?
I don't think my race pace is that good. It's going to be really hard, but yeah, we'll see what happens.
Well, we think otherwise. The numbers never lie. But we're wishing you all the best with the race. Now, Jack is joined by Jake Dennis.
Thanks, Darren. Yes, Jake has joined us virtually, and Jake will start with the virtual world because here in our Formula E Accelerate land, BMW leading the team's championship. No small part thanks to you after that win in Diriyah. How was that?
Yeah, the weekend started off well. Obviously, all drivers went straight in with the sort of E-race. I think it was a bit new to all of us, especially me. Obviously, these guys had sort of through the COVID situation, they had all that year of practice. But yeah, somehow managed to come out on top. Obviously, it was good for the championship points for the BMW guys. And yeah, it was a lot of fun as well. I had Buemi to one side and Lucas Di Grassi to the other, who are probably the vocal guys in the Formula E grid on the radio. So I had all sorts of language, all sorts of words coming from left and right ear, but it was a lot of fun.
And had you been doing much sim racing during the lockdown? Did you get involved in that scene at all?
I wanted to, but the biggest issue was the stock just went completely non-existent. There was really nothing I could get hold of. So Red Bull kept me busy. Obviously, I work on the Red Bull simulator, so I think I was there at least 2 or 3 days a week, keeping busy with those guys. And I eventually got a simulator and joined quite late to the party, but I definitely got the tail end of it. And obviously, it sort of continued as the racing has sort of got back to some sort of normality.
So Diriyah was your first races in Formula E. You kind of were not exactly a left field choice, but often these big manufacturers will go with a driver that's, been part of their program for many, many years. But BMW kind of plucked you back into single-seaters after you'd been away for a bit. So can you give us a little bit of background about your career before you arrived in Formula E?
Yeah, obviously, I had a lot of single-seater experience from the age of like 15 to 20. I was sort of on the path of the usual sort of Formula Renault, Formula 3, GP3. But then I decided to switch up and go to sports cars and try and just earn a professional career, which I managed to do by joining the likes of Aston Martin before obviously I eventually made the switch to Formula E. Because I think realistically the way everything was working out, it was quite difficult to try and land a seat into Formula One. So yeah, we made the switch. Did a few years in sports cars. Had a successful short sports car career, and then obviously things happened with BMW, and I'm now back in single seaters. Feels a bit more at home, a bit more what I'm sort of been taught throughout my whole career. And a lot more natural to me.
Yeah. Well, how did Diriyah go? Obviously, the results weren't there and the points weren't there, but how was your experience of a Formula E race? Because so many drivers have sort of their minds blown a little bit the first time they're wheel to wheel in single seaters, but there's contact and there's collisions and there's chaos.
Yeah, I think I had everything, I had qualifying was difficult. Day one, just sort of underperformed. But the race went extremely well. Obviously, I think I started like 14th, which I was just sort of looked behind me and I thought, okay, I can go forward here. Then I rocked up on the pre-grid and I had 3 of the champions behind me. I had Verne, Da Costa, Buemi, De Grassi, and Van Dorn. I had all the good guys. And I was just like, oh, God, it's going to be difficult just to stay where I am as a rookie. Luckily, we managed to go forward. We had a really good race. The pace was there. Just getting used to, carnage was a big thing. I was sort of prepared for it from what I'd seen. And obviously, coming from sports cars, I was used to a bit of door-to-door bashing. But then, sort of being thrown right in at the deep end was a cool learning experience. I learned a lot in the first race. And then race 2, unfortunately, I hit the wall in qualifying. So we obviously started again towards the tail end. And the race was going extremely well. But Formula E being Formula E, there was some contact between me and Pascal. And I ended up getting put into the wall pretty hard, which took me out of the race. But it is what it is. We sort of move on from it. I learned a lot. And I'm definitely looking forward to Rome in a couple of weeks now. Preparation's already started. I'm here in France at the moment, quarantining for a test coming up in a few days now. And yeah, I won't be coming home until June, just because of the UK situation. So it's a big commitment from everyone. It's difficult times, but I'm loving what I'm doing, and yeah, certainly looking forward to Rome.
Okay, so that cool artwork on the wall, that's nothing to do with you then?
No, this is not my place. I'm some sort of Airbnb in France, in Marseille at the moment. The weather's better than UK though, that's for sure.
Okay, cool. Well, we look forward to seeing you at Rome. Best of luck with the season.
Thank you.
Well, from one talented young Formula E driver to a talented young Extreme E driver, both from the same Andretti family, it was great to hear from Jake, but now it is time for the Allianz Ask Me Anything. Katie, are you ready?
Nervous, let's do it.
Okay, well, firstly, thank you for your questions across all of our social channels. We're going to start off with the first one from Igi40K, who says, what other sport that you don't participate in are you a fan of?
Oh, I love downhill skiing. I've always been such a fan of it. I grew up watching Lindsay Vonn and she's kind of my hero. So yeah, definitely the thrill of that. I think we're really safe in cars, you know, we don't really ever hurt ourselves, touch wood, but for them it's, you know, pure craziness, I think.
Yeah, and kind of linking on to that, Kara Nisai _S.A, love the new username, asks, and if you can choose a sport other than racing to compete in, what would it be?
Well, that's a really difficult one. Do you know what? I love athletics. So Jessica Ennis was also one of my heroes.
Yeah.
And I grew up, I started doing pentathlon and I never reached the heptathlon. I was too young, but yeah, I think athletics is something else, you know, to actually be able to do that stuff with your body, like high jump and stuff, is amazing.
Definitely. And on to the next question then, kind of linked with your idols. It comes from _Mikkel, who asks, which drivers have you supported / been a fan of in your childhood? And are there drivers that you still idolise?
Absolutely. It's strange that I'm actually racing against some of them this year. Yeah, I think when I was growing up, Sebastian Ogier, massive inspiration, Sebastian Loeb, Susie Wolff and Michelle Mousson as well, getting some girls in there. And now I think it's really cool to be working with Timmy Hansen. I actually had a fan photo with him in 2018 at one of his rallycross races. It was a bit embarrassing when I had to admit that, when we met for the first test of the year together. But he remembered it, so yeah, that's pretty special.
That's amazing. _Pole blog asks, what is it like to be in a great team like Andretti?
Oh, it's amazing. You know, to lean on their experience and, you know, I mean, you saw the kind of team in Formula E that they've had and to be going into electric racing for the first time from my side and having the engineers who've got all the experience in the cooling and the state of charge and all of these things that I've never had to work with before.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really inspiring and it kind of takes a bit of pressure off our shoulders because we know that we're in safe hands with our team and that everyone's going to be doing everything we can to win.
And Lost and Forgotten Star has asked, what languages do you speak, brackets fluently or not, and which ones do you want to learn?
So I actually, this is a funny story. So I started working as an ice driving instructor because I wanted to drive on ice in Lapland a few years ago. But I didn't realise, I went to work and I didn't realise that everything was in French. So I had to learn very quickly. I learned on the job, so a bit of French, a bit of Spanish, but not enough really. I think everyone speaks English, so we kind of cheat it a bit.
Yeah, I feel you there. But thank you, Katie. And thanks to you guys for sending in your questions. Remember, we love hearing from you. In fact, Jack, what's the social wall saying?
Yeah, plenty of action here on the social wall. We've got that. We've got, you know, Rocket Venturi getting involved. We've got Bono Huis up down here as well, and all of the teams getting involved in the action. And, oh, that was a little bit of a moment there, wasn't it? That was sort of Kelvin van der Linde style, wasn't it? So, yeah, hashtag FE Accelerate if you want to get in touch. But now, let's have a little chat to Taya, shall we? Because we've had her here, and she is going to be, well, tell us a little bit about yourself, really, because every guest we've had on, we heard it from Katie there. I've been into motorsport since I was 6 and could walk and that sort of thing, but you're kind of pretty new to all of this.
Yeah, so I started sim racing back in Feb 2020. That was before lockdown, so it had nothing to do with lockdown. Okay. And I was watching the Bathurst 12 hours on YouTube. And I was like, oh my God, that was so much fun. And my fiancé just had bought a little rig. It was like a playset challenge, just like a cheap setup. And I stepped in it, tried ACC, and I was just completely in love. And I think I'd stay in the rig for like 2 hours. I always wanted to do content creation, so we just kind of put the two together. And yeah, I've been learning, showing my journey, having a couple of goals, which I stick to. But I've been, learning everything on stream, which is quite challenging because it's going from zero to kind of hero. But it's challenging to show all your mistakes and yeah.
How does that decision come about, though? How do you know, oh, I'll do a bit of driving, I'll do a bit of, you know, sim racing for fun? What made you think, you know what, I want to sort of show people this and bring people on this journey with me?
Oh, I think there's a few motorsport fans around me. My fiancé is one of them, and we discussed it. And I thought no one would like to watch what I had because quite a lot of YouTubers out there doing sim racing, and they're really, really good. And I was absolutely rubbish. Like, I'm watching my first streams, and it's I don't even know what an Apex was at the time. So yeah, I thought no one would watch it, and very quickly I saw people were just gravitating towards it. And I quite enjoyed the challenge for myself. I think I gave myself the challenge to stream 5 days a week. So I just decided and stuck with that, and it kind of went from there. So it was just, yeah, it was just me challenging myself, really loving. The challenge was making me discover more and more all the sims that there are out there, all the different type of racing, and learning along the way was just fabulous.
Yeah, well, we've all been enjoying watching you learn and watching your streams, and we'll put that learning to practice a little bit later on with a hot lap on New York City. But now it is time for the race. Round 5 of Formula E Accelerate about to get underway. Once again, we've got Freddie Rasmussen on pole position. Kevin Siggy is a long way back in the order. He's starting outside of the top 10, so it's going to be a real challenge for him to get any points. How aggressive is Erhan Yayovski going to be on the run down to the first corner as he tries to take the lead, perhaps from Freddie Rasmussen, or will he play the long game? We'll all find out in a moment. Let's have a look at the grid for round 5 of Formula E Accelerate.
So, at the back, we've got Kelvin van der Linde for the Audi Sport Abt Schaeffler team. Jaroslav Honzik will start in 23rd place. Jiayu Zhang, 22nd for the Neo 333 racing team. Then it's Tamer Benchik in 21st, Olli Pakala in 20th. 19th is pave in the Dragon Penske Autosport outfit. Artur Leyuk is 18th for DS Techeetah with Mark Gassner, 17th for Nissan Edams. Then it's Risto Kapit, the Estonian from Tallinn, lines up 16th for Neo 333. Then Mahindra's Lucas Müller will start in 15th. Bono Huis, again a hit and miss qualifying for the Dutchman. He started 4th on the grid last time out in Diriyah, down in 14th position for this one. Brzezinski 13th, Biancalila 12th, Kevin Siggy, 2nd place man in the championship, 12 points off the championship lead, and he's not starting this race in the points paying positions. He's got a lot of work to do. Jan van der Heide completes the top 10. Lawrence Herzing continues his impressive form and is in 9th place behind Marius Gollenbeck in 8th. Graham Carroll in 7th, Martin Stefanko 6th, Jarno Opmeer is 5th for the Mercedes EQ Formula E team. 4th is Nikodem Wisniewski with his best qualifying performance of the season. Same is true of Peter Berliak in 3rd in the BMW I Andretti motorsport car. And the front row, as ever it seems, Erhan Yayovski and Freddie Rasmussen at the front. Katie Bunnings has come to join me in commentary. This is going to be frantic. It's all about risk and reward for these championship contenders.
Definitely, and it's getting towards the final now, isn't it? The last race. So, yeah, things are definitely hotting up. Close championship, though. I think it's still really exciting to watch.
It's double points as well in New York City, so there's in the final race. So there's plenty to play for. All 5 lights are on. And the race gets underway. It's not a great start from Freddie Rasmussen. Berliak in 3rd seemed to get the best getaway, and here comes Yayovski in the black and white Venturi, the championship leader on the outside, coming into this treacherous first chicane, and Yayovski takes the lead, and Berliak gets very sideways in the BMW and spins back across the pack, wipes a few cars out. That'll help his teammate a little. Siggy now is up into 9th position, but Erhan Yayovski has taken the lead at the start, got a better launch than Freddie Rasmussen. Wisniewski is up into 3rd place there in the DS Techeetah. We're on board here with Kevin Siggy, who's in 10th place as he tries to battle his way up the order, and just like in real life, there's quite a lot of fights in the mid-pack, and there he goes, immediately aggressive, but the door's going to get closed, and there's contact with Manuel Biancalila. He gets through, but he knows he's got to be aggressive if he wants any chance in this championship.
Yeah, it's a fine line, though, isn't it, also, because he doesn't want to be slammed into those walls and pick up any damage, because then he's got to play with that for the rest of the race too.
24 minutes left on the clock. There's Erhan Yayovski in the lead. This is a replay on board with Marius Gollenbeck in the middle of the pack. So Berliak sort of got out of shape and then span across and wiped out Gollenbeck. I think Graham Carroll was involved in that action as well, and maybe lost a couple of, well, he's managed to hold on to 7th place if that was Carroll getting very, very sideways. But Yayovski it is who leads the way in the black and white Venturi car. He's the championship leader. He leads Freddie Rasmussen by 16 points. But Rasmussen is behind in the white and red Dragon Penske Autosport car as they come across the line and down to this first chicane again. And I think these two are going to disappear up the road somewhat, I would have thought, and we'll see whether Wisniewski can hold on to 3rd place as he launches. That's more rallying, isn't it? That's more your style.
Yeah, definitely. I can appreciate a bit of talent like that. That's not bad.
23 minutes left on the clock, and
Here comes Yujovski then, sweeping through this sequence of corners. Here's Graham Carroll, so he's in 7th place. He's up ahead of Jan van der Heijden. Van der Heijden running in 8th place, which would be his best result of the season so far. Hasn't been in the points since his 10th in New York City in the opening race, but there you can see Graham Carroll's concentration. That's one of the things with esports, is you get to see the drivers' faces while they are competing, and some of them are a picture. Graham Carroll there, look, I like the guy, but that's quite a concentration face. I guess you don't know yours.
Oh, I do. I always end up with really dry lips, so I think I must just churn them out of nerves when I'm competing, and the onboard cameras is not a very attractive look, I don't think.
Okay. Noted. 22 minutes left on the clock. Here's Lawrence Herzing now. Herzing up into 5th place. That's a really good start from Herzing, because it was his best qualifying performance of the season so far. It's the first time he's qualified inside the top 10, and as I've mentioned earlier, his last race, an 8th place finish was his first points. So there he is in the Rocket Venturi, running in 5th place. He's got Jarno Opmeer, the reigning F1 esports champion, right behind him. So he's doing a very good job in these early stages, is Lawrence Herzing, as we're back with Carroll, who in fact himself is trying to put a bit of pressure on Opmeer. Gets so loose coming through that chicane. It's very, very stressful to watch them go through. Yujovski's lead 0.8 of a second at the moment, but those top two really are pulling away now. 2 seconds clear of Wisniewski in 3rd.
Yeah, exactly, and I thought that would just keep increasing now throughout the race. Really strong starts, kind of a league of their own at the minute.
On board again with Herzing. He's up behind Martin Stefanko, who has had a 5th place finish so far this season, has Stefanko, in Berlin in round 3. So if he's able to hold on to the 4th place finish, then obviously that'll be his best result of the season. As we ride with Herzing, who's closing down on Stefanko. Of course, we've got energy management here. On the left-hand side, you can see Yujovski and Rasmussen have set off at quite a pace. They've got 85% of energy remaining. Wisniewski's on 84, and some of the others, sort of the Opmeer, Carroll, van der Heijden's, were on 87 when we first came over to them, or 86, so they might have a little bit more energy than Yujovski and Rasmussen at the moment. Wisniewski looks to have a little less than those drivers, but that's the kind of thing that will just build over the course of the race as we look at Jan van der Heijden on the back of Graham Carroll. Yujovski sets the fastest lap, a 1:25.773 now to move a second clear. There is Jan van der Heijden in the Nissan Edam's car, in Oliver Rowland's car, down in the bottom left, with 20 minutes left on the clock. Yujovski leading, 1.2 seconds clear of Freddie Rasmussen. Wisniewski 3rd, Stefanko 4th, and Herzing in 5th. And this wheel-to-wheel fighting, Katie, is that going to be something you're going to have to get used to a little bit? Have you done much sort of on-track racing with other cars before?
Yeah, definitely. I think I'm normally a bit selfish. I get the road to myself. So sharing, I'm not sure how I'm going to feel about that, to be honest with you. Yeah, but it's all about the traffic, isn't it, at the end of the day, and not getting stuck in that. And I'm sure with Extreme E, we're going to have lots of dust and things like that to think about as well. So, yeah, but I don't think we'll have the track limits in this sense. We're not going to have any walls like that. I think it's going to be a bit more of choose your line and go for it. Yeah,
it's going to be really, really interesting when that gets underway in a couple of weeks' time. Make sure you keep it across Extreme E and on the socials when that gets underway. Here's Olli Pakala in the Mahindra, currently running in 18th place. He's got Risto Capit behind him. So Risto Capit in the Neo 333 car, one of the first drivers to go into attack mode, and as a result he's looking a little bit racy. Now Capit is a very, very experienced driver, the Estonian. We're on board with him here, and he started racing online in 2009 on rFactor 1. He's won the Sim Formula Europe Championship in 2020, and he finished 3rd in the GTE class in Le Mans last year. So, and he's performed better than this, quite frankly, in the course of the season so far. So a real struggle in qualifying for Risto Capit, and as a result he's down in 19th position. Pakala's got ahead of Pev in all of that. Now Yujovski has taken his first attack mode then, so Erhan Yujovski activates his first attack mode and managed to keep ahead of Freddie Rasmussen, so he built up enough of an advantage, and that's where the tactics start to come into play. And in a Formula E team, you have so many people telling you what to do, when to take attack mode. It's down to the driver a little bit, but it's so much, you know, managed by the team, whereas here you're all by yourself. You're all alone relatively, and I guess again maybe that's a new experience for you coming up.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, to be honest with you, I'm normally quite alone anyway, other than having the co-driver. We don't really have engineers or any comms like that during the race. But we have got a power boost for the biggest jump off the start line, so that's going to be quite a dramatic start, I would imagine.
Wow, okay. That's going to be... Wow.
Our version of the attack mode, so I think it's an extra 50 kilowatts we're given.
Wow, that's going to be quite something, isn't it?
I think some of these drivers were practicing it over the curbs a minute ago as well.
Yeah, exactly. So Yovski across the line sets the fastest lap of the race in attack mode at the moment. Stefanko now is right on the back of Herzing. So Herzing has got ahead of Stefanko at some point during all of this, because it was the Jaguar driver ahead of the Venturi. Now it is the other way around, and Stefanko is under pressure from Jarno Opmeer behind in the silver Mercedes as they swing through the long left-hander at turn 4, then through the right at 5. And Yovski's attack mode ends, and he's 1.1 seconds clear at the end of his first attack mode from Freddie Rasmussen in second place. Rasmussen's got 1.2 seconds to Wisniewski behind, so he's got the gap if he wants to activate his attack mode and still come out in front of Wisniewski, I would have thought. It's two 90-second bursts that they get for, 90 seconds, and go from 200 kilowatts of power up to 235, as we see pave then, again, down in the bottom left, relentlessly charging down on the back of Olli Pakala, who is up behind Artur Leyuk in the gold and black DS Techeetah that's at the front of this queue. But we're looking at the Bulgarian in the bottom left from Sofia, who hasn't had the series he would have wanted. His best result is 17th in the first race in New York and the last race in Diriyah. He's 18th here, and Rasmussen does activate his attack mode then. Meanwhile, there's the look from Olli Pakala up the inside, and he gets through on Artur Leyuk. Meanwhile, Pev activates his attack mode, swings through the long right-hander, loses a couple of places. I think he comes out behind Tamer Benchik there. Indeed he does, down in 20th place, as we're back with Pakala, who's now ahead of Leyuk behind. Rasmussen, as I say, is in his first attack mode, as is Nikodem Wisniewski. And what is the progress of Kevin Siggy in all of this? He's into 9th place, so he's right behind Jarno Opmeer, but not making a huge amount of progress. And it must be so frustrating for him to be starting so far down. And there he is in the middle of the pack, qualifying, so crucial here. And you can see the frustration on his face.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially if he's kind of used to being run at the front of the pack and not having this much traffic to play with. You really don't get the clean line that you want, the clean drive. If you want to accelerate, there's people in the way. So it's a really tough one, and it kind of gets you stuck in the middle ground, I think, for quite a lot of the race. Yeah,
he's coming through the long right-hander there. You can see him working the wheel down at the bottom. There's a little look up in front from Opmeer trying to attack Jan van der Heide, I think, as they're going to go side by side into the final corner. The Mercedes has the inside line, and Opmeer, I think, is going to make that move stick. They're still side by side there, and through goes Opmeer. There's also an attack behind. That is going to be Bianca Lila getting ahead of Kuba Brzezinski, as a load of drivers activate their attack mode at the final corner now. Yovski actually has activated his second attack mode. Rasmussen is still in his first, but Yovski now is into his second. I think that's Lawrence Herzing's first attack mode. So it's very busy out there with the varying strategies, and Opmeer now is going past Graham Carroll up into 5th position. So this is the view from Lawrence Herzing, who's in 4th, back to the silver Mercedes of Graham Carroll, back to, sorry, the silver Mercedes of Jarno Opmeer, who's now in front of the purple Envision Virgin racing car of Graham Carroll, and Stefanko's in 7th place. It's all very busy with these varying strategies.
Yeah, exactly. Yovski just wants to stay out front, doesn't he? I saw it getting quite close as Rasmussen was coming up behind him on his lap with the attack mode. So I think he's played that to try and keep the clean line at the front and not get stuck behind.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the yellow flag out there in sector 2, so someone has had an inside. I fear it might have been Tamer Benchik, because she's just dropped a position there. But there is Hanya Yovski, the North Macedonian, the winner of the first 2 races of the season, but then a 4th and 2nd in Berlin and Diriyah have not been ideal, but this would extend his championship lead back up to 23 points. Martin Stefanko and Graham Carroll are going side by side into the final corner. Carroll goes in and activates his attack mode as he does so then. So he was about to get past, and then a few more, including Kevin Siggy, go through attack mode further back. Siggy then still in 10th spot. Yovski has 20 seconds left on his attack mode, and there is Martin Stefanko ahead of Jarno Opmeer then into the chicane. So Stefanko using the extra power that he has to get ahead of Jarno Opmeer, and Opmeer drops down into 6th place, but it's still Lawrence Herzing who's holding on to 7th spot fairly well, actually. And the leaders, as we sort of were thinking earlier, haven't disappeared up the road as much as I thought they might.
Yeah, exactly, especially in the last few laps, even though they initiated their attack mode. It hasn't really pulled them away from the pack that much. The others are on full charge behind, aren't they, trying to keep up with it, and perhaps with a bit more adrenaline running through their blood as well. If they're having that close racing at the back, the leaders might be relaxing into their positions a little bit. Yeah, well, that's also very true, is that there's no need to build up a big lead and use energy that you don't need to. Here comes Graham Carroll on the attack, goes for the switchback through the sort of tramline section of the circuit, and there's a bit of contact with Jan van der Heijden. Van der Heiden's in the Nissan on the left. Carroll's now going to be on the outside for this long left-hander. Van der Heijden keeps it to the inside, but Carroll, because he's in attack mode, gets the move done. A deep exhale from the former Walter Hayes Trophy winner, and he is now up into 7th position ahead of Jan van der Heijden. Siggy behind has just got up into 9th place ahead of Kuba Brzezinski in the Jaguar, but that's still only 2 points as far as the championship is concerned. So the gap to Siggy would go from 12 up to about 35 points. So there's still 56 on the board, but he would need some really misfortune to come for Jofsky and Rasmussen in the final round. A result like this for Siggy could put him out of the title running realistically. Risto Capit's got a penalty meanwhile. He is down in 18th position. Presumably that's for track limits, because they're being monitored fairly strictly, especially at the chicanes here at the Electric Docks, if you're wondering. Electric Docks, it's the Leicester Special if you want to download it on rFactor 2. It's available in the Steam store. So there is Capit with his penalty down in 18th position. But Jofsky and Rasmussen, we saw them fighting in Hong Kong. And Rasmussen, oh, and into the wall. Capit's gone into the back of one of the Mahindras there. That must have been Olli Pakala. And Peo Pev in the Dragon Penske Autosport car got caught up in that as well. So big hit for Olli Pakala, who drops down into 23rd position. Not quite sure what was going on there with Risto Capit. He's up into 19th spot now, but he's still got to serve his penalty. Here's a look at the replay. So, oh, those two span in front of him. So Pev and Pakala span in front of Capit. Capit came round the corner, nowhere he could go. Yeah, that was unlucky to be caught up in the middle of that. I quite like the entry from the beginning, though. The first slide round there, if he'd have caught that, that would have been quite a hero move.
10 minutes to go. Jofsky, as I was about to say, he was leading, and there is Capit serving his drive-through penalty for exceeding track limits. Jofsky, I'll try one more time, was leading the race in Hong Kong. Rasmussen looked to be quite far behind him, but was really saving energy and started to attack in the closing laps. So that is a very, very fascinating situation that could unfold over the next 10 minutes or so. But it doesn't look that way, does it? Because the gap's now up to 1.6 seconds. This is really classy stuff from Jofsky, and then everybody else is just in a brawl for the remaining positions. It's so intense out there.
Yeah, it is. I wonder what his energy levels are like as well for Jofsky, if he's just thinking, okay, I need to conserve this, or whether he is just comfortable in the lead at the front.
We'll have a look in a couple of moments, I'm sure. Here is Siggy, 9th place for him then. The BMW I Andretti Motorsport driver, the 22-year-old. I committed to 27 and I knew it was wrong. 22-year-old who has been very impressive. Race at Home Challenge winner, second in the rFactor 2 GT Pro Championship last year to Anja Jofsky. Also a McLaren Shadow Project winner, and also an Andretti Autosport driver. Peo Pev and Olli Pakala, that accident that we saw between them that Risto Capit then piled into, that incident is under investigation, but they're both down in 19th for Pev and 21st for Pakala, so I don't think it'll make too much difference to the outcome of the race. Jofsky's lead is now 2 seconds, and Wisniewski is only 2 or 3 tenths behind Freddie Rasmussen. The fight for second place is very close, and that could have huge championship implications as well. There you can see Yayovski, as ever, looking fairly calm and chilled at the wheel as he swings the car through that sequence of corners. But there's Wisniewski not too far away from Freddie Rasmussen. Okay, he's not right up behind him, and actually Rasmussen has extended the gap a little bit, but he's not breaking away as much as he would have wanted. 8 minutes left on the clock. There's a little bit of defensive work from Lorenz Herzing, trying to defend from Martin Stefanko. There you can see Nikodem Wisniewski, the Polish racer, for the DS Techeetah team. Second attack mode for Jan van der Heijden. So van der Heijden in 9th place activates his second attack mode as we continue to watch Wisniewski, the 26-year-old Pole who won the Le Mans virtual 24 hours race in the LMP2 class with Kuba Brzezinski. Also won the 2019 12 hours of Sebring, and he's racing in Jean-Eric Verne's car. Took a lot of speed through there, didn't he? Really closed into the back of the car in front. And they're all starting to queue up now. There's just some corners where that gap between second and third really comes down quite dramatically. Like here, it's sort of the closest it is anywhere else.
Yeah, I think this is going to heat up as well, coming into the final sort of 5 minutes of this race. You can see they're on 31% now across the board.
Yes, Stefanko has a little bit more usable energy, as does Jarno Otmir. Yayovski, at the moment, looks like he has a little less, but of course he's going to have less because he's further up the road than everybody else, so he's closer to the finish line. So it will sort of go down in that way. Stefanko is using it quite well as well. Katie, when we have the Formula E drivers in, they spend a lot of time on simulators. Not quite like this, of course, as Siggy loses out to Jan van der Heijden and activates his second attack mode. But is that a thing that sort of exists in rallying and rallycross and that, or is it not really applicable?
No, not really. Just because it's, you know, what we need to train for is the changing surfaces and that feeling and the real life kind of spontaneous weather and everything like that, that kind of comes. It's very difficult to predict. It's dangerous actually for us to try and, you know, practice one stage over and over and over on a WRC game, for example, and then get there and it not be the same. So yeah, I mean, it's changing all the time, and it hasn't really filtered through in a realistic way yet to the rally space in terms of training.
A lot of fun though.
I had to go on one of these, and I was blown away because it's just completely different, isn't it? Yeah. I was like literally bouncing from wall to wall to wall on my first go. It was quite embarrassing. I'm not sure it looked like I even have a driving license, to be honest with you.
5.5 minutes left on the clock. On board with Jan van der Heijden, running in 7th position now, behind Martin Stefanko and Jarno Otmir, but van der Heijden might be under pressure before too long because Graham Carroll is going to be right behind him, so keep your eyes peeled for a verge, and there it is actually. Graham Carroll up the inside, coming through the right-hander in attack mode with the extra power, gets ahead of Jan van der Heijden, who drops down to 8th place. Can Carroll close in any more than that? 5 minutes to go. Rasmussen is now, well, I was going to say he was closing in a little bit, but then the gap extended. Here comes Kevin Siggy to the outside, and that's why the gap extended, because Freddie Rasmussen used his second attack mode now then. So the top two have both used their second attack mode. We're on board with Kevin Siggy as he looks at Stefanko in the Jaguar, losing out to Graham Carroll. Lorenz Herzing, oh, having a big twitch in the Venturi behind as they came through that first chicane. Herzing is in 5th position in that Venturi, and here comes Kevin Siggy to the outside, hits the wall, I think, as he tried to get around the Jaguar there. Couldn't quite make it stick. That might have damaged his car a little bit, because even if we don't visibly see the damage, it can affect the suspension. Herzing in 5th position. Olli Pakala has been given a penalty again, presumably for track limits, but 4 minutes to go. Rasmussen is 2.8 seconds back from Erhan Yayovski. He's in attack mode, and it's now or never really if he wants to take the win.
Yeah, exactly. I feel sorry for Siggy as well, watching him. He looked so frustrated in the corner there. I think he was just trying that move. He was in the last seconds of his attack mode, and he just tried to nip Stefanko, but it's a tough call, isn't it? It's a tough call when you're drawn middle of the pack. There's not that much you can do, because all of these racers are so talented, aren't they? It's not like just the first few are talented. It's across the board. They are so fast and put so many hours into training to do this.
Yeah, that's the problem, is there's not a huge amount of difference between them. As you say, we see it in how close qualifying is. Jarno Opmeer activates his second attack mode. He comes out behind Graham Carroll. Siggy is behind them in 7th position. Rasmussen has dropped to 3.3 seconds back from Jajowski, so there must have been a mistake, I think, for Freddie Rasmussen, because he's dropped a long way back from the leader, despite having more power at the moment. I think Yachi Zhang's just had a moment, Jiayu Zhang's had a moment and dropped to 23rd position. Opmeer, meanwhile, is getting passed by Graham Carroll. Carroll is now up into 5th place. Rasmussen's attack mode ends now, and he remains in 2nd position, 3.5 seconds away. There is Opmeer up behind Graham Carroll as they come through the right-hander and then into the second chicane, the less dramatic of the 2 chicanes. As we come down now towards the final sequence of corners, 2 minutes and 20 seconds to go, and Jajowski's coming through the middle sector on his lap now, so I think he's about to start the penultimate lap. It's going to be fairly close, actually, but keep an eye on that one. Carroll right up behind him is Jarno Opmeer in the Mercedes. He's in attack mode, not for too much longer, so he needs to take advantage of it as soon as possible. Goes to the outside, gets it done on the brakes. Very nicely done. 3 wide behind. Who's that going absolutely bananas? I think it's Martin Stefanko going up the inside of 2 cars into the final corner. Von der Heide in the Nissan on the right-hand side gets the switchback. Kevin Siggy in the white and blue BMW I Andretti is behind, trying to take advantage of that. But I think Stefanko has held on to that place. Absolute dive bomb into that final corner.
That was carnage. That's a classic case of end of race, just giving it a go, isn't it?
Exactly. Look at that. He wasn't even... It was almost like he was trying to defend from the Audi. Then suddenly he found himself up the inside of the 2 cars in front. Remarkable stuff from Stefanko. Jajowski's come across the line, and I think we're going to have 2 more laps in this race. He's on his penultimate lap of the race now, Erhan Jajowski, as Opmeer then in 5th position behind Lawrence Herzing. Opmeer, his best result of the season so far is a 6th place in the first race in New York City. So for Wisniewski, Herzing and Opmeer, this would all be their best results of the season, which would be very impressive. Opmeer, as I said earlier on, the first, or the reigning F1 esports champion, only recently moved to rFactor 2. And we're on board with Manuel Biancalila, who's going to try and get past Kevin Siggy. So he started in 11th place, Siggy, and he's about to drop down to 10th position. He's still there on the inside. Biancalila trying to turn into the final corner, and I think he'll get that move done. Yes, he will. So Siggy back down to 10th, and he might even lose out to Kuba Brzezinski in the Jaguar, who's in attack mode, and Siggy drops down to 11th place. 0 points from today's race would be a real disaster for Kevin Siggy, and it's looking like it's going that way. He's absolutely furious. Just look at him talking to his engineers on the Discord, presumably, and yeah, not happy at all.
No, you can see him kind of shake his hand as well. It's one of disbelief, I can imagine. Coming into this with good hopes for the championship, and then it's not the result that he wanted, is it really?
Not at all. So,
I'm wondering if he had some kind of damage though. We saw him hit earlier a bit lighter, and as you say, you know, they were kind of passing him quite quickly at the end there. I know one was in attack mode, but still at the same time there might be something there.
Yeah, I think that's a very real possibility, actually, because we saw so much carnage in the opening laps. But this man has avoided the carnage in the opening laps. He's avoided the carnage in the whole of the race. He took the lead off the line, got a much better start than Freddie Rasmussen, who's behind Wisniewski. Nikodem Wisniewski's got up into 2nd place. So when has that happened? The DS Techeetah driver has got ahead of Freddie Rasmussen, and that is going to be big, big news for the championship, because Erhan Jajowski, the winner of the first 2 races, is going to win round 5 at Electric Docks and perhaps put one hand on the Formula E Accelerate title. It's carnage out of the final corner. Graham Carroll's going incredibly slowly. Lucas Muller's in the wall with one of the Mercedes. Wisniewski finishes in 2nd place then. Freddie Rasmussen 3rd. Herzing in 4th place. Jarno Opmeer 5th. Best results of the season for them. Stefanko 6th. Best result of the season for Von der Heide as well. Biancalila, Brzezinski and Siggy, the rest of the top 10. But the win for Erhan Jajowski And that is a really remarkable performance, because that means that his lead at the top of the championship, I think he's going to be on 111 points and then 85 points for Freddie Rasmussen. And look at the disappointment and the frustration on the face of Kevin Siggy. €100,000 prize pool, a drive in a real Formula E car up for grabs, and that has just slipped away for the Race at Home Challenge winner. Of course, he does actually have a drive in a real Formula E car to come in order for winning that Race of Home Challenge. He's livid, he's furious, isn't he, Katie?
Oh, and you know what, you feel for them so much. It's one shot here, isn't it? It's savage, it's so brutal, and you know, it's really hard to control your nerves and to keep composed, and you have to admit sometimes that sometimes you just can't control it, and it's not your fault, you know. He's obviously a really talented driver, got stuck in the traffic, and yeah, didn't pull the lucky card today.
Well, one man who got the best start and pulled the lucky card is our race winner again, Darren Erhan.
Yes, we are joined with Erhan Yayovsky, the race winner. Erhan, at this point, I feel like we are really good friends. A huge congratulations on the race. Just what was that like? I feel like you're just chilling, cruising at the front. Did you feel the pressure, or you were just relaxed?
A huge weight lifted out of my chest finishing P1. I was so stressed the entire weekend. The pace wasn't there in qualifying. Luckily, I managed P2 at the end. And yeah, at the start, I wasn't expecting Rasmussen to lift off so early, so I took the position. And from then on, there was a bit of a moment when I took the first attack mode. I got behind him, but luckily I managed to get past him, and then I needed to save energy because I used quite a lot at the beginning.
And you're now just one step closer to being the champion. What would that mean to you if you won?
I don't want to think about it. I just want to do my best in the next race, and yeah.
Well, amazing. Well done. Thank you very much, and we'll speak soon. So now on to our second place finisher, Nikodem Wisniewski. A huge congratulations. Thank you for joining us. Now, this is your first podium in Formula E Accelerate. How excited are you?
Yeah, it was a really tough race. I mean, finally I was focused during the quality and during the race. You know, I was struggling for the past rounds. Like the qualifying in the Deraya was completely terrible. I clipped the wall, and that was it. You know, and I was sad about it for like a few days. So now I was just super focused, and the results I bring is really good. And I hope that I can to be at the top level on the next round and be in a top 5 mix. That would be great.
Brilliant. And we're going to take a look at the replay shortly. But could you describe to us that overtake of Rasmussen?
Yeah, sure. You know, I was saving energy for the first laps, so my energy was quite good at the beginning because I was going in the slipstream behind Frederick. So I could save as much as possible, and at the end I saw that he's lifting a little bit more than I do. So I thought that maybe there is some chance to pass him. You know, top 3 was a really good result for me as well. But you know, if you can be a little bit higher, that's really great. And yeah, I tried that, and looks like Frederick hasn't got that much energy left, but most because of the slipstream. He was going on the clean air. I was going behind him, so that's the main reason, I think.
Well, an amazing strategy. Congratulations again. Thank you and goodbye. Thank you. So now we're going to be joined by Freddie. Oh, look, he's already there. Back in the dark again. Freddie, third place finisher. Talk us through that race for you.
I really don't get what's going on. I feel like the others are way more in throttle than me and still use less energy, so I really don't understand that. I had good pace, but I'm clearly missing something with the energy, and I couldn't do anything.
Well, still 1 week to go until the final round of Accelerate, and it's double points next week, so you're still very much in the titles fight, and yeah, let's see what you can do next week. Well done and congratulations. So now we are going to be heading back to Jack and Katie with some more analysis and replays.
Thank you very much, Darren. Well, fascinating to hear from these sim racers. Their reactions are just like real racing drivers, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, they're going through the motions the same as any of us, competitive people. It's probably even more frustrating for them, you know, because they can do perfect laps all day, every day. And then when you put a camera in front of them, maybe it's a bit more intimidating. Yeah, I feel for them, but, you know, the pace out there is insane, and they're definitely all on it.
Well, let's take a look at the results then after round 5 of Formula E Accelerate. The victory going the way of Erhan Yayovski after 18 laps of racing, 3.7 seconds clear of Nikodem Wisniewski in second. Freddie Rasmussen, third for the Dragon Penske Autosport team. Herzing in fourth, Otmir fifth, but then down in 10th position, Kevin Siggy. Managed to finish ahead of Bono Huys, managed to pick up 1 point, but that'll be slim consolation for him. Mark Gassner in 12th position, then Graham Carroll dropped back to 13th in the end after running so well earlier on, and then Pave down in 18th spot. As far as the championship is concerned, then it is 111 points to Erhan Yayovski, Freddie Rasmussen in second on 85, so that means he is, what, 26 points adrift of Erhan Yayovski, if my mental maths is right. But my mental maths is the reason I'm a commentator, because I failed my maths A-level, so that probably wouldn't be worth relying on. Kevin Siggy third now, quite a long way adrift, but still 56 points available for the final race of the championship. And as far as the teams are concerned, that's a big hit for BMW I Andretti Motorsport. They've lost the lead of the standings because Rocket Venturi Racing, with that win for Erhan Yayovski and the struggles for both Petr Berliak and Kevin Siggy, means that they're down to second place. Dragon are there in third, fourth for Mercedes-Benz EQ. So quite a mix-up of the championship standings. Not, of course, for Yayovski, but he extends his championship lead. And let's take a look at why that championship lead got extended so far, because right behind him, well, Freddie Rasmussen started on pole position. He lost the lead to Yayovski at the start, and Rasmussen, we heard him complaining, he just had nothing he could do here. He didn't have enough energy to fight.
Yeah, that's really frustrating as well, isn't it, to feel that and to feel like, you know, it's not your talent that you're running out of. That's an easy thing to accept if you feel like you're not up to it. But when it's something engineering, something that you can't quite get your head around, that is one of the most frustrating places to be as a driver.
Yeah, and that's what so many of these, well, the real-world drivers and the sim drivers find with Formula E, is that it's all very well getting it done on one lap and then just relentless pace, which is what sort of sim racing usually is. But now this energy management has been involved. It's the sort of lift and coasting and the regeneration is something that is completely new to them. Let's have a look at Kevin Siggy's final corner, because he managed to finish in 10th position in the end. We're on board with him here, sends it to the outside at the final turn, and then there's someone going in the wall on the outside, and that's some classic Formula E. I think that's Graham Carroll going in the wall, so that's why Carroll all of a sudden dropped down out of the points. So here he is coming into the final corner, and he goes to the outside. Carroll, I think, must have been trying to activate his second attack mode or something, and then just overcooked it, ended up in the wall. And when you have a car on the outside, there's only so much you can sort of hang on around the outside before you're all going to run into the same space.
And they did. That's exactly what happened, wasn't it? That final corner, unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly. So a really fascinating race. Erhan Yayovski taking the win, extending his championship advantage just when it looked as though Rasmussen and Siggy were starting to close back in again. They've fallen back, Darren.
Yes, people have really been loving that race. Here's Rocket Venturi with a nice gif going on the social wall. But it's also been great to hear from you guys. I've got a comment that says, spicy race. Are there any other rounds ahead of this? Yes, we can confirm that there is one more round. Arne has said that Erhan is something special. I agree with that. Really incredible racing. Taya, what did you make of the race?
It was incredible. I think I actually raced before with Timea and Jardi, which was Honzik at the bottom, so I was rooting very much for them. So I'm quite happy to see where they finish in the end. But yeah, really surprising finish that we just saw the clip off. It was a bit crazy at the end. I think it was really spicy, like the comments say.
Yeah, well, something else that's spicy is Jack Nicholls' footwear. And it's been great to see your response on the social ball. It's really made my day. But Jack, I did feel a bit mean about my dissing of the shoes. So our friends at Boss have very kindly given you a box fresh pair of shoes.
No
so
way.
this is for you. Obviously, COVID, so come and collect these later. We'll sanitize them. But I'm so sorry.
I'm going to wear bad clothes more often, if that was possible.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Very nice.
So now we are going to be taking a look at where we're going to be racing in the next round. Let me tell you guys, it is an incredible track. Take a look.
So those are the very first images seen anywhere of the new track built for rFactor 2, specially for Formula E Accelerate, and it's being released as downloadable content right now. So get on it. The Rome E pre-circuit now on rFactor 2, and that's what our drivers will be racing next week. Now, before we go, we have to have our hot lap competition, and it's Taya's turn to see what she can do around New York City. So Taya, if you want to head out onto the circuit, we'll give you an out lap. And while she's going round her out lap, let me bring you up to speed with Romain Grosjean. Now, we saw him on the show last week. He did a lap. He did a 1 minute 13.186, which was almost 3 seconds quicker than Oliver Rowland. Amazing lap, Romain. 10 out of 10. Huge congratulations. But he's at home in his own rig, lots of practice, so I think we're still going to leave Rowland at the top for the time being. Sam Bird is still in second. Darren has promised that she's going to be doing her lap next week. That's an absolute Darren guarantee? Okay, confirmed. So now our attention's turned to Taya. We're not going to ask you to talk through this one, don't worry. So you can just focus on the driving. But it really is... and Darren, you're sort of fairly new to this sort of motorsport world as well. So Taya going on this journey has been really cool to watch.
Very cool to watch, especially as we have similar backgrounds in fashion as well. Love to see it.
Love to see it. Now, maybe I have a future in fashion with those shoes. I'm so excited for those shoes. Where have they gone?
They're over there, don't worry.
Okay, right.
Keeping them safe.
Okay, I was really stressed for a moment there. Right, Taya's just coming down to the final couple of corners now on this New York City circuit. We've had Oliver Rowland, Sam Bird, Oliver Turvey, Alex Lynn, Abby Eaton and Charlie Martin all set a lap. And as we come through the right and the left and out onto the start-finish straight, let's take a look at what unfolds here then. And we're...
That's not wall riding, by the way.
That's not wall riding. Okay,
No,
we won't penalise you then. Down towards turn 1 then. Onto the brakes. Heavy braking zone at the first corner.
Oh.
Through the dock loop and then out onto the back straight. Really challenging New York City circuit here.
Yeah, it's quite technical.
Yeah. Now we come down the back straight. We went past the attack mode activation zone. Heavily onto the brakes. You can hear the rattling. That's the wheel rattling as the power is put through it. Coming through the middle sector now. This next left-hander, where Oliver Turvey broke his hand. Hopefully we'll be all right today. Not on the sim, I should point out, in real life.
Yeah, good one to point out.
Yeah, just to be absolutely clear.
That's good going.
Yeah, exactly. Now to the tight hairpin right-hander. Down towards the final couple of corners. To the brakes again. All over the curbs, not quite in the style of electric docks. And look at those socks. Look at those socks. See why this is, who needs shoes when you've got socks like that? Maybe that's what I need to do. Right, here comes Taya, out across the line.
Oh dear. I'm right at the bottom, it's 122. 22.966.
And it's a 1 minute 22.966. And that is indeed 8th position for Taya. But it's a valiant effort. A round of applause, I think. And you've been driving for what, a year of your life?
Only a year, yeah. I've got actually 2 goals. One of them is to just show my face and show that sim racing is actually a really cool hobby and girls can do it. The other one is to compete at high level, and maybe that wasn't today.
Maybe not, but there's a long future ahead of you. Thank you so much, Taya. Thank you for joining us. A real amazing sport and an amazing guest, and make sure you follow her and follow her streams like I think Darren and I were both doing last night.
Yes, so that is it. Thank you so much for tuning in, and a huge thank you to our guests. Thanks to Katie. You can remember to follow her adventures and the whole Global Extreme E series, which starts in just over 2 weeks' time. And of course, thanks to Taya. Follow her streaming adventures across her social channels.
Next week, it's the big one, the season finale. We have the second of our Formula E driver races to help decide the team's title, and the drivers will be fighting for these, our lovely new trophies, kindly 3D printed for us by Bosch.
Yes, 5 down, 1 to go, double points. So thank you for watching. Thanks for all of your comments. We love to see it, don't we, Jack? Yeah, we love to see it. So we'll catch you next week, same time, same place, for the conclusion of Formula E Accelerate. Bye.
Arrivederci.
Nice one.